Hello, good morning, and welcome to the CoffeeMTG channel, where today I'm going to be taking you through my first attempt at a competitive deck for the new standard meta with Phyrexia All Will Be One. The deck is a green-white deck. I've named it the Green Machine, even though we have some white cards in here. And the focus of this deck, actually I have three versions of this deck. This is version number 1. The focus of this deck is to get enough creatures on the board that are either mana dorks or tokens, and then we're going to beef them up with the Ulvorden Oddity when it converts or transforms to the Behemoth. Defiler of Vigor. We have Nissa's third loyalty ability, which is a -7. All creatures get trample and +1/+1 for each forest you control. And supplementing that, we will also have Mondrak Glory Dominus, 2 copies. I'd like to put 4 in here, but I only have 2 at the moment, so it's 2 copies for now. Mondrak is just going to give us double tokens, and we have a lot of ways to get tokens. We have Awaken the Woods, we have White Sun's Twilight, we also have Architect of Restoration. When Restoration of Aganja transforms, whenever we attack or block, we'll get an extra 1/1 spirit creature token. And naturally, Nissa's +1 ability is a Phyrexian horror creature token. So plenty of ways to get tokens. Now, how does this deck work? What's the playthrough? So the ideal hand, you'll have 2 or 3 lands. Doesn't particularly matter which ones you have, as long as you've got at least 1 forest to start with. There's enough mana or land grab cards in here that are going to help you synergize and curve out your early to mid-game mana base, so let's take a look at that to begin with. Bushwhack is going to give you the ability to either fight target creature or search your library for a basic land and put it into your hand. You also have 2 mana dorks. One is Armored Scrap Gorget, the other is your Lanoir Loam Speaker. Both of those can be tapped to give you a colored mana. We have 2 copies of Azura's Many Journeys. It will allow us to play an additional land on the turn that we play Azura's Many Journeys. We also have 4 copies of Awaken the Woods, which are giving us a multitude of Forest Dryad creature token lands, which are fantastic to have because they naturally synergize very well with Nissa's ultimate ability again, because they do count as forests. Next up, we have the Restoration of Aganja, which also allows us to search our library for a Plains card, put it into our hand, and shuffle. An added benefit of Restoration of Aganja is the fact that we may discard a card. So whether or not one of these mana dorks has been blown up very early in the game, or if we're just holding up a mana dork or Azura's Many Journeys, we can discard that to the second saga or second lore ability of Aganja, and when we discard that card it goes to the graveyard, then it basically comes back into play. So it's effectively a free cast of a mana dork, because you can't tap them for mana on the turn they come out anyway, so we can just cast this, discard it, and it comes into play for free. So it's pretty nice little bit of synergy there. You do empty your hand very quick in some instances. Not always ideal to be holding up a empty hand, but the benefit is almost everything down here is giving us a lot of mana to float, which we can then sink into Awaken the Woods or White Sun's Twilight. This is currently a 3 of. I would like to put it to a 4 of, but I don't have the 4th copy, so it's a 3 of for now. So let's talk a little bit now about how the mid-game unfolds. Let's assume that we do have Mondrak out, even though we've only got 2 copies. Occasionally we do draw the card and get some value out of it. Rather obviously, Awaken the Woods into Mondrak, double your tokens. Rather obviously, Architect of Restoration will give you double the tokens. And also obviously, Nissa's first lore ability is, first loyalty ability, I was getting confused there with sagas. First loyalty ability, a green XX Phyrexian horror creature token will also double off Mondrak. What we are looking, or what we need to also understand here is White Sun's Twilight. If you pay X, meaning 4 or less, everything will double under Mondrak. If you want to cast it for 5x, you will board wipe. You'll gain X life, whether you are 5 or above or below the 5x mana cost. But importantly, don't forget you can sacrifice 2 other artifacts or creatures. In this deck there's no artifacts, so sacrifice 2 creatures, pay the mana cost, and Mondrak gets an indestructible counter meaning it will survive a big White Sun's Twilight, and you'll even be able to double all the tokens off it. So there is absolutely value and reason to do this. Now let's assume that Mondrak isn't on the board and it's not in hand, it's nowhere in sight. Then what we're looking to play around here is the Ulfwalden Oddity. Transforming this can usually give us enough power to break through. Otherwise, we have Defiler of Vigor. We have a lot of cheap green cards to get onto the board. Defiler of Vigor is only a 3-off because we are splicing 2 colors here. And I find we only ever get to 1 or 2 additional cards off the Defiler of Vigor, meaning +1 or +2 encounters, but it is still a card worth having. And then naturally, Nissa hard cast it at 7 and trigger that ultimate ability immediately. I find more often than not, you don't need 10 or 20 tokens on the board that are getting plus a ridiculous amount. You only need 4 or 5 creatures down. You'll have the mana, they'll have the base attack stats, and Nissa just buffs everything up to the point of lethality. And your opponent has to block, otherwise they die. So if they block, they lose their board anyway, so you'll win the next turn if you don't win on that turn. So it is a very powerful, very potent card, definitely a 4-of in the deck. There are 2 other variants of this deck that I have built, and I will show those in 2 separate videos. The variations to this deck, one is a more stable build, at least I'm predicting it will be more stable, with an additional copy of White Sun's Twilight, 2 additional copies of Mondrak, removal of Restoration of Eganjo, and actually we remove from memory the Oddity as well. I can't remember what replaces the Oddity. You'll have to check the next video that comes out. I'll talk about how that deck works. It is a little bit, just a little bit more synergistic. But this deck at the moment is pilotable, and I'm just not rushing into spending money buying more packs to effectively get cards that may not be necessary. I just want to play through this, get a feel for it, how is it responding to the meta. And in my initial playtest, I'll be frank, the one deck that stands out as the weakness or the worst matchup for this deck is undoubtedly Toxic. That's because Toxic is very, very fast, and the life gain that we would hope gives us sustainability coming off of White Sun's Twilight, as this is many journeys, is just not giving us anything in Toxic. Toxic is one of those things that you really can't offset. So the only way to deal with that is have enough dorks on the battlefield that are going to let you block. And if you don't have enough to block, hope that White Sun's Twilight comes in and clears the board. But even then, some of this stuff that I've been seeing is coming up with Indestructible or Proliferate, and it's just really hard to dodge. And even if I built a deck ideally focusing, maybe blue-white, blue-black, really tailor that deck to counter Toxic, it's still hard. So it's not that this deck is particularly weak against it, it's just that is a very strong deck at the moment. The reason I didn't build that deck is because everyone is playing it, and I think there is more stability to get out of a different deck, and I'm all about the hunt. I want to discover that deck, I want to be first into the meta with that deck, and that's the deck that I'll crush with. And this deck is not there yet, but it is a step in the right direction. So let's jump into a few games. You can follow the flow of the deck, see how I play it, see how it rolls, and give me some thoughts, comment, or feedback in the comment section around the card selection here. If there's anything you can see that would fit better into this, keep in mind there is 2 other variants of this deck that I'll be putting out there to show. But yeah, I highly recommend, if you've got the cards, don't run out and craft them, because this is not in its final form. But if you've got these cards, or most of these cards, put a similar shell together and experiment with it, because it is winning. I fell down all the way back to the bottom of silver while I was playtesting, and not this deck specifically. I was just playtesting random decks and tuning, but this deck has now gotten me up to silver 4, and I think we'll keep going until we probably get to a top tier gold, or into the, I think it's Diamond will be next. At that point, I really will need to substitute White Sun's Twilight and Mondrak Glory Dominus. I just don't see a 2-of being reliable. Just to give you an idea what that deck would look like. I mean, you can see I obviously don't have the cards. You'll get rid of Restoration, increase that, and at this point you're really focusing on bringing out those tokens. You don't care so much if Mondrak gets blown up because you'll have multiple copies. And at that point I would even question Defiler of Vigor if that is really the right card to be playing in this deck. I know there is actually a mythic green card that gets a good amount of hate. Actually it is, I do have a copy of this. It's a 5 and an artifact. It's not rare, it's mythic. Where is it? The Rootwire Amalgam. This is fun because you can cast it for its prototype cost, or you can cast it for its hard cast cost. Now if it's prototyping and you've got Defiler of Vigor, Rootwire will trigger that in its prototype form. But irrespective of that, I sort of see it being one of those things where you can sacrifice it and the token that will be created will be doubled off of Mondrak. So it's probably more of a fun thing to do rather than strongly competitive. The other thing that you could do is drop this and add in 3 Renin 7. Renin 7 is a very potent candidate in this deck because you do have the -3 ability, which is going to give you a Treefolk token, and because we are playing Awake in the Woods, you're getting a lot of value out of that Treefolk. It will also help you draw some land, and obviously if you max it all the way, the 4th Loyalty ability will give you a little bit of redundancy out of your graveyard. So Renin 7 is a really strong fit in this deck as well, and it will also avoid getting blown up by White Sun's Twilight. Again, because I don't have the additional copies of Mondrak, I haven't built the deck around it this way, but that is how I'm going to try it once I do get these additional cards. But in the meantime, let's get started with the deck in its current format and see how it plays through. Okay, here we are with our first matchup up against Brangot. This is not the greatest hand, to be honest. 4 land, I'd prefer to only see 3. It's a little bit unusual, but let's keep it. I'd rather go with 4 lands than with 2. And if I mulligan, I can guarantee you I'll get 1 or 2. Okay, so we'll go ahead here, play the Scrap Gorger. Pass the turn. It is blue, so we're going to have to watch out for some counter spells. I tend to like to keep 2 mana free when I'm up against blue if I'm going to cast some heavy spells, just because most people are not packing pure counter magic. They're packing the cheaper stuff that has a penalty cost associated with it. And I have been able to get around. I mean, people cast a spell anyway. They just hope you aren't paying attention. You don't pay the penalty cost. But I do pay attention usually. Not always. Is this the play? It is the play. Restoration of a Ganjo. Grab a plains. Nothing going on. Pass the turn. Pass the turn. Can't tap that, there's nothing in the graveyard. He's holding 3 mana up. No, we're not going to discard anything. Here's the question. Is he holding counter magic? Tempting to play it for 3. Or do we play this for 3? He's probably got counter magic held up. Or do we be very greedy and play Nissa immediately? You know, I'm going to force this one out, because even if he counters it, we have White Sun's Twilight to back it up next turn, followed then by Nissa. So I'm going to put the pressure on. What's he holding up? Okay. First counter spell is burn. I mean, that really was the only play there. Otherwise we do nothing, but he would still be holding the counter magic, and I don't foresee him tapping himself out. You know, if he thinks we're holding up. Ico Moon Gauntlet. Okay, so up against a Planeswalker Proliferate deck, they're going to drop it to Fairy and try and deck us, no doubt. So, got 6 mana. Ooh, the Oddity could be fun. I think the play here is to attack, and then we cast White Sun's Twilight. Oh, actually, we can't do it with that. Okay, so we might as well just cast White Sun's Twilight now for 4. Don't need to get rid of anything. Resolve. Because we didn't pay 5 there, the board was not wiped. So now we end the turn. We have 6 mana including Ganja, 7 including that. So at 4 tokens by 3, that means everything gets +3 +3. So at 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. I think we go for the kill shot, but he is holding up. So how do we want to play this? Do we go for the kill shot? No, we don't. We just go for a threat first. If I have to get rid of something, I'm going to go and grab white or plains, and then we'll swing. And next turn we use Nissa, because I'm not expecting a board wipe, frankly. Let's see how we play here. What's he gonna do? See what I mean? This deck really has the capability to go wide without Mondrak triggering everything, which is fantastic. Yeah, so that's fair. He obviously bricked, given he only had 3 land. That's not very fun. Yeah. I mean, it happens, but it's terrible when it does. Okay, this is Axolotlness. What an interesting name. Again, 4 land starting hand, not my favorite. I do like having Mondrak and the Oddity in. Got the mana to cast them. This is a very greedy hand to keep, but we can usually get away with 2 or 3 turns. So again, as long as it's not toxic. If it's toxic, then I made the wrong choice. But it looks to be a probably a burn or a planeswalker. I've forgotten the planeswalker's name. But at the end of the day, it's all burn, isn't it? Red is burn. Okie dokie. Drop another green. Oh no, that was the wrong play. Oh no, we didn't have a 4th planes to start with. I guess that didn't matter either. Interesting, so it will be the Oddity that we put down first. We have no choice then. I would have liked to have had Mondrak out first to give them something to target with their burn. It's okay. Planes first. Oddity second. Swing for a friendly 4. God, I love green with haste. There's just something magical about it. I mean, I really think that the second green got access to proper haste creatures, green was far more broken than it ever should have been. Green used to be more about regenerate or generating tokens on death or things like that, but the second it got that access to haste, it just increased the tempo of this deck significantly. Much more threat potential than green ever used to have, which is very cool. Oh, he really doesn't like us. I don't know why he's burning through his spells at this rate, unless he's holding up a hand refill card. What is this? Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage. Okie dokie. Etching of a Kumaro, and of course he's going to lightning strike. Are we going to block? Yeah, that's fine. 1 block. We can cast Mondrak. Oh, yeah, look, let's just cast Mondrak. It's a 4/4. We don't mind if it's going to get burnt. What should we be removing here? Get rid of the burn spells first. Mondrak can fight that. Now having 2 in hand is great, obviously, if he removes that one. Which he does. And this sort of goes back to my point. Am I going to have 2 in a deck, 3 in a deck, 4 in a deck? I don't know. But while we still have the ability to play one, let's play one. Get rid of Lightning Strike. Target creature fights Mondrak into Kumano. Gone, passing the turn. Axolotliness. I figured out your name. 4, 5, 6, 7. Look, let's just cast it at... Doesn't particularly worry me. And next, we know there's nothing there. Beautiful. Deals 1 damage to each opponent. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, untap it. Oh wow. See, that just makes no sense as to why he was burning his spells earlier on. Yeah, I mean that was just... don't want to say poorly played, I think maybe he's tired. Or she. Just not paying too much attention. Okay, so we made it into gold tier 4. I will be honest, while I was building this deck, I fell all the way down to bronze and then came all the way back up. But that's part of what Magic is. Here we are, facing off against Fernando. First gaming in the gold bracket. Let's see how we go here. This is a nice hand. I like to see this. 3 lands, a Mana Dork, Awaken the Woods, and White Sun's Twilight, giving us flexibility as to how we want to play it, and a win condition. It doesn't get any friendlier than that. Let's cast white first and drop our Mana Dork. I have to say, for a Mana Dork, that thing gets blown up all too often. I mean, it's like a Llanowar Elf, except people genuinely hate it. Poor Loam Speaker. We cast... Now, when playing this deck, on turn 3, I don't really have an issue playing this for 4 mana and getting 2 into the battlefield. I think it gives me a nice early advantage, a little bit of forest advantage, and the fact I'm holding up a second of these allows me to play confidently in the sense that I'll be able to get a lot of value out of those later, because I'll pump up White Sun's Twilight, the tokens that we get out of that. Now that's an interesting draw. It's a very interesting draw. We have 2 Nissa. We can hard cast 1 Nissa. Oh yes, let's do it. Let's hard cast this Nissa.
Harmony grants us strength.
Okay, this is interesting. There's really nothing you can do to melt that Nissa down. otherwise, I mean, we've got -7 on the Nissa out there, then we'll drop another one and do -7 again. This would be really fun if it pays off, but let's wait and see. It looks like it will pay off. So we have 3 for 5 land, and we have 5 forests. Or should we do it? Should we do it? Yeah, let's do it. Is it worth it to cast it again? I'm just thinking we'd have to tap those two, then they'd each get +5/+5, which is not worth it, obviously. That's a shame. That would have been very cool. Well, look, let's just swing for it, and we'll deal with the rest after. I really wanted to drop the double, but we actually would have dealt less damage if I'd have cast it. Oh, that's not fair, Fernando. I really wish people would just let that follow through. It's not like I'm wasting their time. That was disappointing, but a good win. Here we are up against Moxam. Now, 3 lands with an interesting hand. Definitely a playable one. Let's get started. Brushland. Hello, yes, hello indeed. Are we going? Oh look, I'll say hello back. I can't be rude to him. Are we going to use this? No, we're not. Let's see what color he's on first. Red. Okay, I'm gonna go and grab a plains. Being careful not to click too quickly, as I'm very guilty of. Right, we picked up the plains that we wanted. Next turn, a Ganjo, Forest, Mondrak, and then, oh nice, this is shaping up to be a mighty fine hand. Go and grab another plains. That is what I like. Could almost cast Nissa softly, meaning with Phyrexian payment. As long as I could cast Mondrak on the next turn, and then I could double up on the tokens, which would be unique. He's gonna blow up Mondrak if I cast it. Is the play to get it out? I just don't know. Has to be sitting on a stack of burn, but let's just cast it. Okay, so Mondrak is gone. That's why I need to beef up the copy count in this deck, get it up to 4. It's not essential for the win condition, but it's really going to help knowing that when it does get blown up, I might draw another in the game. We didn't blow it up, that's unusual. At the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library and play that card this turn. At the beginning of your end step, if you didn't play the card, exile it. Create a tapped power token. Well, as I say that, given there's only 2 copies, I draw that one. What are the odds? Okay, so we got 5. Should we softcast Nissa? Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Pay the Phyrexian mana cost and get double the tokens. That's a bit of fun.
Listen to the will of the machine.
Attack.
Our strength multiplies.
That's a little bit of a dangerous board. A burn down the house won't... Oh wait, it will get rid of everything. And he has the mana for it. That's going to be painful. I hope he doesn't have that. Don't have burn down the house. Whew. It was a tense moment there. Very tense. But yeah, buffs it up nicely.
Phyrexia never surrenders.
A little bit of juicy damage going in there. But it doesn't ultimately matter. We got 3, 6. I mean, he's going to block one of the 4s, which means he's getting 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15. Is there anything we can do with this to amplify the damage? There is not. So, let's go ahead and double. 2, 3, 3s.
Fight beside us.
Get the pony down. Thanks. This guy's a nice person. That's rare. Good game. I appreciate your manners, Moxham. That's a nice, friendly game to play. That's always nice when your opponents are, even if they're going to quit early, at least they're positive and responsive. That's very nice. Thank you for that, Moxham. Here we are, playing off against Corvin. With the green machine that is actually green and white. Okay, so we only have 2 lands in hand, but I'm confident, given we have 2 or 3 early mana outs, that this is a fine hand to keep. Just need to make sure. I mean, look, we got perfect. We got one land of each color, so we'll be fine. That is what the mana or land ramp is in here for. Help us curve out. And on a good day, accelerate. Don't blow it up, I need it for the restoration of a Ganjo. Oh, if only you knew the value of that Lanois. This my lone speaker is sticking around this turn. You may cast it from your graveyard. That's actually a deceptively good card. Restoration down. Plains is up. And the plains is down. Okay, so at least we curved out on turn 3. That's appreciative. What? Okay, fair enough. Not ideal. It would have been good to get the oddity down, but actually, do we want to discard a card? Yeah, I think we discard that. Oh, he exiled it. That's funny. That's very funny. Because it's exiled, it goes to pull that back. That's brilliant. He has to accept that. That was just a fluke, actually. I wanted to pull back my Lanois Loam Speaker. Okay, well, let's cast this. We need to go and grab a forest. The brick is with us today, certainly. Ulvenwald Oddity first, or Awaken the Woods. Let's drop Awaken the Woods. I know it's only 2, but I would rather be able to drop the Defiler and then follow up with Oddity later. I don't see us getting a lot of value out of dropping Oddity first. Ooh, that's spicy. There's a spicy combination lining up there. The question is, which one do we cast? The Oddity or Mondrak? Now, let's put some pressure on first. If he's got removal, he can burn through it. And then we'll drop Mondrak into White Sun's Twilight. Free tokens here of the Architect of Restoration. Perfecto. Even more interesting. Okay, let's drop Mondrak now, because he's unlikely to have removal for anything. Swing for everything. Double the tokens, where we've got something to sacrifice to give Mondrak indestructibility. Now we can follow up with Awaken the Woods on this turn. Or he'll just be dead outright. What is this? The source deals damage for example, right? That source controller sacrifices that many points. What a brutal card. God, truly brutal card. Let's pause for a minute. How do we play this? We're going to swing and he's going to block 2. So he's going to block 4, 8. Then he's going to take 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so but he's going to get life gain 3. Sneaky, sneaky. That means we need to Awaken the Woods for 3. Yes, Awaken the Woods for 3. Then pass the turn. Good thing is I have looked through black and from memory there is not... The good thing is I've looked through black and from memory there is not anything except for Path of Peril, which is very disappointing. Path of Peril is literally the only card in black that is a board wipe. The rest of them are minus minus. Interesting, interesting, interesting. We're going to drop this for 4. And no attacks. Given the fact he's looking through my graveyard at the moment, I don't think he's aware of what Mondrak is doing. Which is good for us. Very, very good. He's afraid of those 1/1s. What did that do? As an additional cost, exile any number of black cards from your hand. This spell cost it deals X damage to target creature or planeswalker, and you gain X life. Why couldn't we put an indestructible counter on Mondrak just then? Ah, because we didn't have a land. A land was needed to be open. Okay. Whew, that's disappointing. Now, do we drop? Yeah, I think that's the game right there. Yes, we're going to go and pay with Phyrexian mana. He can block 2 of those, which means he's taking 7, 14. But then he'll gain 3. Ah, but that's got trample. Yeah. So we win. Goody goody. has to remove 2 creatures. He has to remove Defiler first. If he can't remove Defiler, we've won. Pay the Phyrexian mana, just to keep some open for White Sun's Twilight. Attack. Good game, Corvin. Close game. Alright, here we are against Flux Carmelian. Interesting choice of avatar there. And this is an equally interesting hand. We are on the play. Forest down into 3 Lanoir Loam Speakers. Let's give the illusion of going mono green. Never let on what you're actually playing until the last minute. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it. What a lovely looking card. It looks like we are going to reveal our colours at this point because we get to drop 4. We have another Lanoir Loam Speaker. Means 4, 5, 6, so we could even cast Nissa. But I'm going to hold up Nissa. We gain 3 life. I'll grab a Plains. Cast the Plains, cast the Loam Speaker. Pass the turn. So we've got 5 lands out. If we draw a 6th land, would it be helpful? There it is. So we don't need to discard anything. Now if we cast this and go -7, -7, we only have 2 creatures to attack with, which is not enough, because we would +3/+3, and so I think we're going to cast this for its full cost and go +1/+1 and rapidly pass the turn, hoping that they ignore Nissa. We're going to have to block Nissa, defend Nissa for this turn. But luckily we have a beefy boy there. We did have a beefy boy, we don't anymore. We will defend that Nissa. Hopefully we don't draw a land now and flood out. Okay. Interesting. And obviously we're casting this, I'm just holding this up so that they have less time to think as we make our plays. So we're going to cast Ulvenwald Oddity. It has haste. If we subtract on Nissa, it goes to a 7/7. Those two become 4/4s. It's not enough, is it? So this turn we just do that and get another beefy boy. Pass the turn. I'm sure he has some dedicated spot removal for planeswalkers, enchantments and artifacts. If you're playing black, you'd have to have 2 or 3 or 4 in there. Can't imagine him not. He's very worried about that, isn't he? Let's put 1 there. Actually, no, you know what? Let's put these 2 over there. That one there, we're gonna have to block. What is this thing doing? One there. One there. And those two go there. Create another. Pass the turn. Okay, so we got one more turn with Nissa before she's going into the sub 7 loyalty counter mark. If he has spot removal, then she's going now. What's his play? I know he feels that burning need to attack, but thankfully he did not. Doesn't have a ward, so this is rather cool. Blow that up. Create another. Drop a land. Pass the turn. Even if one of those gets through, he can just stack it full of what, 4, 5, 6 damage. Exile a creature that you own. Okay. That's not very fun. So Nissa's probably taking 8 this turn. Nope, Nissa's taking at best 5 this turn. Nissa's taking nothing this turn. What the hell was that? Yeah, I guess so. Down goes the oddity. Up goes Nissa. And we're not going to attack this turn. However, next turn, I think we can swing for lethal. Pretty sure we can. Yep. Good game, Flux Chameleon. I wish you had given me one extra turn to swing for lethal, but that's alright. Okay then, here we are facing off against a Reaper. Let's see what our hand looks like. This is a cool hand. No mana dorks, but we have 3 opening land. We have a Bushwhack, so let's go and grab what land do we want? On the one hand, we want white. We want the plains. We take that plains, thank you very much. Now what are we up against? That is the question. Okay, so we now have a mana dork, so we're going to drop the plains into the mana dork. He's probably running, if he's mono white, then he's got a lot of removal. He's mono red, white and red, he's still got a lot of removal. Okay, let's drop this into the oddity. Get some aggression coming out fast. That way they're on the back foot to begin with. I'm not always in favor of ramping as hard as possible, because sometimes it's nice to clear your opponent's hand of removal, basically. That's what I've chosen to do now. I'd say he had a mana issue. Cool. Fair play, fair play. Now, do we want to play Yes, I think we do. Go and grab our third planes from the deck. Drop the armored scrap gorger. And attack again for 4. It's going to block. Or maybe not at all. I mean, it doesn't make a big difference here. It has trample. Chooses to take the damage. Draw a card. I'm getting the feeling he's curved out, so he's doing alright on land. Maybe he does a little bit of rough water, but he's solved that now. Do we need to go and grab anything? No, we don't. So let's decline that. We have 4, 5, 6, 7, so we can hard cast Nissa. Let's do it. And we're going to get rid of the portal. Because there's probably some jankiness coming through there.
You will grow with
+1
us.
loyalty.
Welcome, my companion.
And if we attack, is that the wrong move here? That is the wrong move. We have to hold it up for defense. We could burn through anyway. That's highly likely. Okay, I'm not so certain that was relevant, but to each their own. These people, I presume, play their decks well. I mean, hey, they beat me sometimes, so I'm sure they do. But let's try to win right away. Let's swing. No one lets us swing for the win. It's very depressing. Anyway, I think I will leave it here for now. Jump back, and I think then I'm going to do some playthroughs on a couple of other deck variations. But please leave some comments, like, subscribe if you found it interesting, and yeah, happy to hear your thoughts or recommendations for changes to the deck. Always welcome. It's still early days in the meta. Thank you very much. Bye bye.